May mga iba dyan na ayaw talaga magbakuna. If I were to talk to you in the gutter language, sabihin ko sa iyo, mamatay ka na kung gusto mo 5 beses. Itong baksin na ito ang pinag-usapan na
Okay lang. Miss Mase, hello.
Hello, good morning.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
You're so near but so far.
Yeah.
may mga iba dyan na ayaw talaga magbakuna. If I were to talk to you in the gutter language, sabihin ko sa iyo, mamatay ka na kung gusto mo 5 beses. Itong baksin na ito ang pinag-usapan natin ganito. Wala sana ito kung merong vaccine available. Iwala. Hanggang ngayon, the word unavailable is nandyan. Unavailable because there are not there's no sufficient supply to inoculate the world. Matagal pa to. Sabihin ko sa iyo, marami pang mamamatay dito.
The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. President Duterte defended the country's COVID-19 response after critics called for his resignation, citing lapses in leadership during the pandemic. To tell us more about Duterte's latest public address, we have with us Maricel Halili. She's reporting to us live from the TV5 studio. Maricel, good morning. What did the president have to say this time in defense of his administration's pandemic response?
Hi, good morning, Charles. Actually, President Duterte last night addressed his criticisms about the lack of efficiency of the administration with regards to a COVID-19 response. In his talk to the people last night, although it's not scheduled, he told the public that the government has been doing everything to solve this issue on COVID-19. As to when this issue on pandemic will end, he doesn't know. But for now, they're doing everything to have enough bed capacity, particularly in ICUs here in Metro Manila. And they've been doing everything to have enough vaccine to be delivered in the country.
The president did mention something about insufficient supply of vaccines coming into the country. Maricel, could you tell us more about this?
Yes, you're right. He once again reiterated the global shortage on the vaccine supply. For this month, we're expecting about more than 1 million doses of Sinovac, which will come from China, and those doses which will come from Russia, the Sputnik V. We were actually expecting the president to discuss last night what he discussed with Russian President Vladimir Putin, because that was what the presidential spokesperson Harry Roque told us in his briefing early afternoon yesterday. But for some reason, President Duterte did not discuss what was the issue that the two leaders talked about. We were hoping that maybe the Russian president or the Russian government has agreed for more delivery of vaccine doses coming from Gamaleya, but we still have to get more information about it.
Right, talking about vaccination, Maricel, the palace has approved a fourth priority group for vaccination. Could you tell us more about this? Who are included?
That's right, Charles. They issued this morning the final list of those who will be included in the A4, but it's too many to enumerate, so I will just read briefly to you who are included in the priority group A4. This includes the commuter transport, land, air, and sea, including logistics, public and private wet and dry market vendors, frontline workers in groceries, supermarkets, delivery services, workers in manufacturing, for food, beverage, medical and pharmaceutical products, frontliners in food retail. Also included in the A4 priority group are the religious leaders. Also included are the members of the media, so we're included in A4, Charles. Customer-facing personnel of telecoms, cable, and internet services providers, frontline personnel in basic education and higher education, and overseas Filipino workers, including those scheduled for deployment within 2 months. There are still other groups who are included in the A4, but I suggest maybe they can just check the IATF resolution posted on the official gazette.
All right, that's definitely good news for us, especially, Maricel. But then we have that announcement along with the lack of supply for vaccines. So do we have any idea as to when these priority sectors can finally be inoculated?
Based on the press statement of Secretary Roque early this morning, it was not stated when will be their target for the A4 group. But if we base it on the presentation of a vaccine Sar Carlito Galvez, I think that was last Tuesday, their target is to start inoculation for A4 group on the third quarter of this month. But of course, this will vary on the supply of the vaccine.
Right. We've also been reporting about the government eyeing local manufacture of vaccines. Could you give us more details on this? Do we have any new updates?
That's right. Secretary Lopez of the Department of Trade and Industry presented this idea to President Duterte last night. He mentioned that I think they were talking to about four companies who can be partners of international manufacturing groups so that we can start manufacturing vaccines here in the country. But as to when this will start, we still don't know because the talk is still ongoing.
Right, Marcel, let's talk about that rather unique message from the president to boost the public's vaccine confidence. Could you break this down for us?
Well, Charles, President Duterte has once again called on those people who doesn't have confidence when it comes to vaccine. He said that it's better to think of the other people if they want to die early because they don't want to be inoculated. That's fine, but they have to think of the people that surrounds them. That maybe their immune system is much weaker as compared to them. So they have to think of the other people. But as for the president, once again, he already said that he is ready to waive his spot for the inoculation, considering that number one, he's already a senior citizen, so he feels that there's no much, there's nothing much that he can contribute to the country. So it would be better to give his spot to other who has a stronger immune system and who can cope with the virus.
Right, Marcel, let's move on to the critical level of hospitals that has been coming over the past few weeks. What is the president's plan to address this issue?
Well, President Duterte last night said that if need be, he's willing to use his police and military power to order the personnel of the Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines to control several hotels in the country. Maybe he can talk to the hotel owners if they can use the establishment as hospitals, because as we all know, the capacity of ICU and ordinary isolation rooms in the hospitals in Metro Manila is already in critical level. So this is one of his ideas on how to address the issue.
Right, Marcel, we reported earlier that the ECQ actually resulted in job losses for quite a number of Filipinos. But then what was the cabinet's evaluation of whether or not this was effective?
That's right, Charles. Secretary Lopez of the Department of Trade and Industry last night said that their estimate is about 1% of our gross domestic product is affected because of the imposition of enhanced community quarantine for the last 2 weeks in Metro Manila. Their estimate is that about 1.5 million workers were unemployed because of the ECQ. But after 2 weeks now, we're under MECQ. So they're hoping that about 500,000 employees can go back to work. And once the IATF has recommended to reimpose the general community quarantine, they're hoping that all 1.5 million can go back to work here in NCR Plus.
All right, we do hope for that as well. Thank you for those updates. That was Maricel Halili reporting live from the TV5 studio in Mandaluyong. A security analyst says the president's silence and China's intrusion in the West Philippine Sea is alarming. Speaking to One News's The Big Story, International Development, Security Cooperation President Chester Cabalza said President Duterte's decision on the matter will affect the country's bilateral ties with China. Cabalza warns that China may become more aggressive if Duterte continues to be mum on the issue.
Basically, the silence is really alarming because basically since he's the chief architect and the commander-in-chief of armed forces, the more the silence stays longer, Beijing will become more aggressive. And the minute that he says something, then that's the command that he will give to the diplomats and to the soldiers of our country.
Cabalza also says that economic stimulus packages and COVID-19 vaccine donations from Beijing will be among the considerations of President Duterte in deciding his next move on the issue.
Now, what would be the consequences of this if, in case, he reconciles or tones down his message to Beijing? One of the effects of this is, of course, the hanging effect of the arbitration ruling because of the self-pedal of Malacanang that we saw since 2016, and because also of the economic stimulus packages and the vaccination donation of Beijing to Manila. Those are some of the considerations.
The Agriculture Department insists that the government must allow more pork imports into the country to address supply issues caused by the African swine fever. A Senate body, however, joined pork producers in calling for the withdrawal of the executive order on pork imports. Shaila Francisco with the details.
Last week, President Duterte issued Executive Order 128 on pork imports to address supply issues caused by the African swine fever outbreak. But a Senate panel insisted that Congress has the sole power to authorize the president to impose tariffs and other duties on pork products. On Thursday, the Senate Committee of the Whole adopted a resolution urging President Duterte to withdraw his executive order, which seeks to lower the tariff for pork imports. 18 senators backed the resolutions, which also aims to scrap an increase in allowable volume of pork imports. On One News' The Chiefs, Agriculture Secretary William Dar said he respects the Senate's decision. But Dar wants lawmakers to reconsider the move, explaining that the proposed low tariffs on pork imports will only last for a year until such time that local supply recovers.
The EU is only good for 1 year, so this is a stopgap measure. And all others, kagaya ng MAB Plus, kasama yan, stopgap measure, para lang the whole intent is really pababain po natin yung presyo ng baboy dyan sa merkado kasi masyado na mataas to tame inflation. So, alam natin na while we are pursuing our first priority of repopulation or enhancing recovery, yung gap ay pupunuan yung augmentation galing ibang bansa. Para sa ganun, mayroon pa rin karne ng baboy.
Dar explains that consumers in Metro Manila will see more stable prices once imported pork supplies start entering the country. The secretary says pork prices are already stable once they reach around 320 to 350 pesos per kilo.
Itong last quarter, mayroon nang dumating in quota at saka outside quota, totaling 38 million kilos of pork. At ito ay, kung mamarapatin ninyo, mayroon na requirement ng Metro Manila per month na 15 million. So kung 38 million yan, dumating na, baka mayroon ng mga imported pork dyan sa merkado. So we should be seeing yung within the SRP na pinapatupad natin.
Pork producers, however, still believe that the DA's proposal will kill the local pork industry. The Pork Producers Federation of the Philippines also accused the DA of overestimating the demand for pork.
Pig holiday ang amin. Yung pork holiday kasi sa mga retailers. Pig holiday ang pag kami hindi nagtigil bentahan muna dahil kami nagpuprotesta laban dito sa ginagawa ng ating sekretary na puparusa sa amin, hindi malayong mangyari uli yan.
The group is also confident that the order will eventually be recalled as they are backed by members of Congress. Still, meat importers and traders believe consumers are at the losing end if the order on pork imports will not push through. The association's president Jesus Cham backs the DA's proposal, saying the African swine fever continues to threaten pork supplies.
Alam naman na lahat yan it's no secret. Nakikita po naman natin and then yung mga hog raisers nagsasabi sila, itong probinsya na tamaan, sunod mga probinsya na tatamaan, may domino effect.
Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
On now to sports. NBA legend Michael Jordan will induct Kobe Bryant into the 2020 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame on May 15. Recall that last year's event was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Back in 2017, the late NBA icon chose Jordan or his former Lakers coach Phil Jackson to be his presenter. Bryant considered them, as their greatest mentors not only in his career, but also in life. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.